Cinema has always had a soft spot for the warrior, a figure who doesn't just fight battles but wrestles with fate, legacy, and meaning. The warrior archetype isn't just about strength or skill in combat, it's about the journey that strength takes. These characters face loss, injustice, or personal failure and come out changed. Not just tougher, but wiser. They fight not just to win, but to understand who they really are and what they stand for. Two films that capture this archetype, but from entirely different cultural and philosophical standpoints, are Ridley Scott's Gladiator and Donnie Yu's Fearless. Both center on legendary fighters, yet they move in different orbits. One a story of vengeance and justice in a decaying empire, the other a tale of redemption and humility in a fractured nation. This study dives into how these films use cinematic language to explore identity, honor, and redemption, each anchored in the ideologies of their respective cultures. Gladiator throws us into a crumbling Roman Empire, where Maximus Decimus Meridius, once a loyal general, falls from grace after betrayal by the corrupt emperor Commodus. The backdrop of a declining Rome serves as both setting and metaphor, mirroring the rot in its relationship. The film taps into Western epic tradition, building a revisionist take on a history that uses classical hero tropes to spotlight moral decay.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions. Loyal servant to the true emperor, Marcus Aurelius.
Fearless, on the other hand, grounds itself in the real-life story of Hyo Hyuanja, a Chinese martial artist who rose to fame during a time of national humiliation, when China was weakened by foreign powers and internal chaos. But this isn't just any biopic, it's a myth-making exercise. It traces Hyo's journey from arrogance to enlightenment, turning his personal growth into a metaphor for cultural rebirth. Ray Chow, in Primitive Passions, describes how Chinese martial arts cinema often blends nationalism with moral awakening. Fearless is a textbook example. While Gladiator dramatizes the collapse of a civilization through one man's vendetta, Fearless rebuilds a legacy rooted in humility, identity, and philosophical transformation. Both Maximus and Hyo start out as elite fighters, but the paths they walk, what they come to represent, couldn't be more different. Maximus is a classic Western tragic hero. Stripped from his family and rank, he becomes the gladiator, fighting his way towards vengeance and ultimately some sort of spiritual redemption. His story echoes myths like Achilles or Hamlet, lone figures taking on corrupt systems. Film scholar Thomas Alsayer notes how Western heroes often define themselves by opposing institutions, which Maximus fulfills perfectly. Hyo's arc is more inward. At the start, he's brash, obsessed with his reputation, but tragedy humbles him. Exile forces reflection. In a village in the countryside, he reconnects with his values of Confucianism and Taoism, balance, humility, service to others. His transformation isn't just about reclaiming his status, it's about becoming a better person. Joseph Alter, writing on martial arts and identity, argues that Chinese martial heroes often evolve beyond violence, embodying deeper philosophical ideals. Maximus earns redemption through death in the arena. His sacrifice becomes a political statement, while Hyo's redemption lies in not killing. His final match becomes an act of restraint, a declaration that true strength lies in self-mastery. Both films wrestle with heavy themes, honor, identity, and redemption, but they're completely different worldviews. Maximus doesn't just fight for revenge, he fights to restore a lost ideal, Rome as it should be. His dreams of an afterlife, golden fields, walking home to his family are more than visual poetry. They're a stoic vision of peace beyond duty. His line,
"What we do in life echoes in eternity."
Fearless is more interested in the inner battle. Pride is the enemy. Redemption isn't found in triumph, but in letting go of ego. When Hyo retreats to the countryside, he doesn't just heal physically, he realigns spiritually. Nature, community, humility, these are the building blocks of his rebirth. Ray Chow notes that martial arts and cinema in China often turns violence into spiritual discipline. That's exactly what we see here. In Fearless, strength without compassion is meaningless. So while Gladiator frames violence as a tool of justice, Fearless frames it as something to be transcended. One sees honor in resistance, other in restraint. The way each film looks reinforces its worldview. Gladiator is gritty and grounded. Ridley Scott opts for a cold, desaturated palette. The camera moves with restless energy. Handheld shots, fast cuts, blurred motion during battle. It all adds up to what David Broadwell calls intensified continuity, a visual language that prioritizes immersion and urgency. The Colosseum is filmed like a cathedral to violence, symmetric, towering, yet drenched in blood. Maximus often appears as a tiny figure in vast spaces, emphasizing both his isolation and mythic status. And then there's Hans Zimmer's score, somber, haunting, almost funeral. Fearless is more poetic. Choreographer Poon Hong Sang gives us elegance, smooth tracking shots, warm tones, composition full of symbolism. Fight scenes are balletic, often slowed down to highlight grace, not gore. The final duel with Anako Tanaka, set in a near-sterile white space, feels more like a meditation than a brawl. The lighting softens the edges, the pace becomes deliberate. It's less about dominance and more about understanding. Tan Dun's score complements this perfectly, traditional instruments mixed with modern textures, grounding the film in both past and present. In comparison, Gladiator overwhelms you with force, Fearless invites you to reflect. At their core, these are not just stories about men with swords, they're expressions of culture. Gladiator speaks to the Western fascination with the individual hero, flawed, defiant, sacrificial. Maximus is a one-man rebellion, a moral anchor in a rotten empire. His death restores a kind of cosmic balance. Elysair connects this to the Western tragic tradition, where suffering leads to justice, even if the hero doesn't survive to see it. Fearless is rooted in Eastern philosophy, especially in the idea of self-cultivation. Hyoul's journey is about shredding ego and aligning with something greater than himself. Community, tradition, nature. His final act isn't just triumph of force, but triumph of restraint. Joseph Alter explains how martial arts in Chinese cinema often serve as ethical frameworks. That's full on display here. For Hyoul, real victory is walking away from pride. Even the film's view on violence diverge. Gladiator sees it as necessary. Ugly, yes, but sometimes justified. Fearless sees it as a test. Do you control it, or does it control you?
And the Oscar goes to Gladiator. Douglas Wick, David Franzoni, and Bruno Callisto.
Gladiator was a phenomenon. It won 5 Oscars, reignited interest in the historical epic, and cemented Russell Crowe's place in cinema's history. Its version of Rome, gritty, brutal, grand, has influenced countless films since.
But because I was 8 years old learning martial arts through my whole life, so I truly believe martial arts, not just physical martial art, also include the mentally, philosophy, everything is.
Fearless didn't conquer the global box office the same way, but it made a huge impact where it mattered. It was Jet Li's final wushu film, a deliberate passing of the torch. More than that, it was a cultural statement. As critic Shelley Cracer notes, Fearless wasn't just entertainment. It was a philosophical and nationalistic project, celebrating Chinese resilience at a time when identity felt under siege.
And after this, I have nothing to say. Then I hope there's nothing to say, that this is the last one.
Both films endure not just because of what they show, but because of what they stand for. Gladiator gives a voice to Western ideals of justice and resistance. Fearless offers an Eastern path of balance and moral clarity. In the end, Gladiator and Fearless aren't just about warriors, they're about the worlds those warriors come from. Maximus wins the crowd and dies a legend. Hyoul finds his inner battle and dies at peace. Both become symbols, one for justice through struggle, the other of wisdom through surrender. To compare them is to compare worldviews, the Western ideal of asserting self versus the Eastern idea of transcending it. Both films suggest the true strength does not come from the sword, but from what drives you to pick it up or lay it down.